John Deere just reported a dramatic drop in equipment sales. But this is more than a slow market. Farmers who trusted the brand for generations are walking away. Dealer lots are filling up, and on auctions are overflowing with unsold machines. So what changed? It wasn't just high interest rates or weak crop prices. It was years of decisions that convinced farmers they no longer truly owned the equipment they paid for. Number 10. The price of green paint stopped making sense. Start with the sticker price, because everything else flows from that first number. A new John Deere 8R row crop tractor can easily cost well over $500,000 once it is equipped for real fieldwork with the options most commercial farms actually need. A large combine paired with a modern corn head can push past $900,000 or even approach seven figures, depending on the configuration. These are not purchases a typical family farm simply absorbs. They are long-term financial commitments that shape the economics of an operation for years. As prices climbed, many farmers began asking a simple question: what exactly are we getting for all that extra money? While today's machines offer more precision agriculture tools, automation, and digital connectivity than those built a decade ago, many growers feel the core job, pulling equipment, planting crops, and harvesting fields, has not improved at the same pace as the price tag. Horsepower increases have often been modest, while costs have risen dramatically. To many farmers, it felt as though six figures had been added to the sticker in the name of technology, and they were simply expected to accept it. Increasingly, they stopped doing so. That's number 10. But the deeper you look, the more interesting it becomes. Number 9. They turned the tractor into a subscription. Here is where the conversation shifts from expensive to frustrating. Many of the technologies that make a modern tractor so productive, the precision guidance systems, automatic section control that prevents overlap while planting or spraying, and highly accurate auto steer, depend not only on hardware, but also on software licenses, activations, correction services, and, in some cases, recurring subscriptions. The physical equipment is already installed on the machine. The receiver, display, wiring, and controllers are all sitting in the cab that the farmer paid for. Yet certain capabilities may remain locked until they are activated or renewed through software. From the farmer's perspective, that can feel like paying twice, once for the hardware itself, and again for permission to fully use what is already bolted to the tractor. The machine is physically capable of performing the task, but access depends on digital authorization rather than mechanical limitation. For many owners, that blurs the line between purchasing a feature outright and effectively renting access to equipment they believe they already owned. But the next position belongs to a true classic. Number 8. The emissions plumbing they bolted onto your engine. Now go where the farmer actually lives, under the hood, at 2 in the morning, knee-deep in mud, trying to keep the harvest moving before the weather changes. Modern Tier 4 emission standards brought cleaner diesel engines, but they also brought an intricate network of after-treatment components: diesel exhaust fluid systems, diesel particulate filters, exhaust gas recirculation circuits, and dozens of sensors constantly monitoring the entire process. Those systems generally work as intended, but they also introduce far more potential failure points than older mechanical engines ever had. And when just one sensor in that chain begins reporting incorrect data or simply becomes unreliable, the tractor often does not stop at displaying a warning light. It may automatically reduce engine power, enter limp mode, or, in some cases, initiate a shutdown to protect the emission system. The timing could not be worse. These failures rarely happen on a convenient day. They happen during planting or harvest, when every dry hour matters and storms are closing in. A faulty DEF quality sensor or another emissions-related component can leave a $600,000 machine sitting motionless in the middle of a field with acres still waiting to be harvested. Older mechanical diesel engines were far simpler. They lacked the efficiency and emissions performance of today's machines, but they also had far fewer electronic systems capable of bringing the entire operation to a standstill because one sensor reported something the computer did not like. And the next entry might surprise a lot of people. Number 7. The 4-hour drive to a dealer that used to be down the road. While machine prices were climbing beyond what many farms could comfortably afford, Deere and its dealer network were quietly changing something just as important: the dealership system itself. The independent, family-owned Deere dealership, the place where the parts manager knew your operation by name and the mechanic had worked on your equipment for decades, has increasingly been replaced by large regional dealer groups. Counties that once had 2 or 3 competing dealerships now may have a single location serving a much larger territory, often as part of an organization operating dozens or even more than 100 stores across multiple states. As those dealerships consolidate, local competition begins to disappear. There are fewer places to compare parts prices, fewer service departments competing for your business, and fewer opportunities to negotiate or simply take your equipment somewhere else. The leverage that once came from driving across town to another Deere dealer largely disappears. When the nearest dealership is 90 minutes away and it's the only option within practical distance, the prices for parts, labor, and service are increasingly determined by a centralized pricing structure rather than local competition. For many farmers, that means spending 3 hours on the road just to reach the nearest dealership, only to discover that the cost of the repair, replacement part, or software service has already been set by a centralized pricing structure. With few or no competing Deere dealers within practical driving distance, there is often little opportunity to compare quotes or negotiate. The time spent transporting equipment, the fuel, the lost hours in the field, and the service bill all become part of the true cost of ownership. As dealership networks continue to consolidate, many farmers feel they have fewer choices than ever before. What was once a competitive local relationship increasingly feels like a single service channel, where the price is largely determined before they even walk through the door. Moving forward, we arrive at another unexpected contender. Number 6. You are not allowed to fix your own tractor. This is the moment that broke the trust for many farmers. A warning sensor trips, the tractor derates to protect itself, and the farmer walks into the shop with a wrench, ready to fix the problem the same way generations before him always did. He replaces the faulty sensor, tightens every bolt, checks the wiring, and knows the repair is complete. But when he starts the tractor, it still won't return to full power. Not because anything is mechanically wrong, but because the fault hasn't been electronically cleared. The diagnostic software needed to verify the repair and restore normal operation is locked behind Deere's proprietary service advisor system, available only through the dealer network. So the farmer ends up loading a machine he legally owns onto a trailer, hauling it an hour or more to the dealership, and paying a technician to connect a laptop and enter the authorization that the tractor demands. The repair was already finished. The faulty part had been replaced, the wiring checked, the bolts tightened, and the machine was mechanically sound. Nothing new gets installed when it reaches the dealership. No additional components are replaced. No wrench touches the engine, the transmission, or the hydraulics. In many cases, the only remaining step is connecting a proprietary diagnostic computer, clearing the stored fault code, and electronically confirming that the repair has been completed. The dealer isn't fixing the broken part. That work has already been done. Instead, the software is simply instructed to recognize what the farmer already knows. The problem has been solved. Until that digital authorization is given, however, the tractor may continue operating in reduced power mode or refuse to return to normal performance. For many farmers, paying to have a computer validate a repair they completed themselves feels less like purchasing mechanical expertise and more like paying for permission to fully use a machine they already own. Next on the list is a name you might recognize. Number 5. The repair ransom during the only weeks that matter. Now stack those software lockouts on top of the farming calendar, because timing is everything in agriculture. A tractor never seems to fail on a quiet Tuesday in January when there's time to diagnose the problem. It breaks during planting, when every dry hour is an opportunity that can't be recovered, or during harvest, when a delay of even a day or two can mean lower yields, poorer crop quality, or fields left vulnerable to bad weather. Every farmer knows that the season doesn't pause for repairs, and Deere's service network knows it too. So when the labor rate is $175, $190, or even $200 an hour, it's being charged to someone with virtually no negotiating power. There is no time to shop around. There is no practical alternative if independent mechanics can't access the software needed to complete the repair. The crop won't wait. The weather won't cooperate, and every hour a machine sits idle can translate into real financial losses. During planting and harvest, downtime isn't measured in minutes. It's measured in missed opportunities that may not come back. When a repair requires dealer-only diagnostics or specialized software, farmers often have little choice but to wait and pay whatever the service costs. With no practical alternative and the season moving on without them, the balance of negotiating power shifts dramatically. For many farmers, the dealership no longer feels like just a repair shop. It feels like the only gatekeeper to getting an essential machine back into the field, at precisely the moment when every hour is at its most valuable. Now let us move to the next entry on the list. Number 4. The machine is spying on the man driving it. Here is where the conversation stops being about money and starts being about principle. That tractor isn't just a machine anymore. It's a rolling data terminal. Every time it goes into the field, the JD-Link telematics system can continuously collect information about your operation, where the machine is, how many hours it runs, its location down to individual rows, engine performance, fuel consumption, maintenance data, and the agronomic information generated by your planter and combine, planting maps, application rates, yields, and field-by-field productivity. That is not just machine telemetry. It is the accumulated knowledge of your farm. It's the record of what works, what doesn't, and what your family has learned over decades, sometimes generations, of farming that land. Yet all of that information flows uphill to a corporation with every incentive to understand your operation in extraordinary detail. The farmer generates one of the most valuable data sets in modern agriculture, the real-world performance of real soil, real crops, and real growing conditions over time. Every pass through the field adds information that can help improve future decisions about planting, fertilizing, spraying, and harvesting. Much of that data is collected by equipment the farmer purchased, often at a cost of $600,000 or more, and, depending on the machine's settings, connected services, and data sharing agreements, portions of it may also be transmitted through Deere's digital ecosystem. For many farmers, that raises an important question about who ultimately benefits from the information their own equipment generates and how much control they should have over it. And this is where things take a turn. Number 3. They built the resale market into a trap, then sprang it. Watch what happens when the farmer decides it's time to move on. He goes to trade in or sell the machine, only to discover that the same software restrictions that complicated ownership now affect its resale value. A used Deere equipped with subscription-based features, software activations tied to the original owner, or systems that require dealer access for diagnostics can be less attractive to both private buyers and equipment dealers. Buyers worry about future costs and limited repair options, while dealers factor those concerns into lower trade-in offers. As a result, the machine may lose value for reasons that have little to do with its mechanical condition. For many farmers, that means years of equity disappear, not because the tractor is worn out, but because digital restrictions reduce its appeal on the used market. Faced with a lower trade-in value, the most practical option often becomes purchasing another new machine, frequently financed through John Deere Financial or another lender. The same software ecosystem that shaped the ownership experience can also influence the resale process, making it feel as though leaving the platform is far more difficult than it should be. To many farmers, it no longer feels like an open marketplace where they can freely choose how to own, repair, or replace their equipment. Instead, it feels like a tightly connected system in which software restrictions, lower trade-in values, dealer-only diagnostics, financing, and subscription-based features all reinforce one another. Each decision, whether it's repairing a machine, selling it, or upgrading, seems to narrow the available options rather than expand them. For those owners, the path away from the ecosystem doesn't feel straightforward. It feels as though nearly every road eventually leads back to the dealership. Now we move to something completely different. Number 2. The old iron is worth more than the new iron, and everybody knows why. Now consider the number that has drawn attention across the farm equipment market. Well-maintained John Deere tractors from the 1980s and 1990s, models like the 4440 and 4640, with largely mechanical systems, no emissions aftertreatment, no telematics, and far less electronic complexity, have remained remarkably strong at auctions, with some examples selling for significantly more than they did just a few years ago. Farmers are actively seeking them out, not simply because they're old, but because they're known for durability, straightforward maintenance, and the ability to be repaired without specialized software or dealer-only diagnostic tools. For many buyers, their appeal lies in their independence. These tractors don't rely on subscriptions, they don't transmit operational data, and they aren't vulnerable to the same electronic derates or software-related limitations found on many newer machines. When older equipment consistently commands premium prices, while demand for new machines softens, it sends a message that manufacturers can't easily ignore. Farmers are making purchasing decisions with their own money, and those decisions reflect what they value most. For many, it's not just about saving money up front. It's about owning equipment they can diagnose with basic tools, repair without waiting for proprietary software, and keep running for decades without relying on subscriptions or dealer authorization. In a business where downtime can make or break an entire season, simplicity has become a feature in its own right. The strong resale values of these older machines suggest that, for a significant number of farmers, reliability, repairability, and true ownership remain just as important as the latest technology. The next entry shows just how far this idea can go. Number 1. The farmer stopped believing he owned it and left. And that brings us to number 1, which is not a feature or a fee or a sensor. It's the realization underneath all of them. For 15 years, John Deere sent one consistent message wrapped in software licenses and locked diagnostics and subscription screens. You do not own this machine. You license it. You host it in your barn. You pay to switch on the parts you already bought. You pay a man to authorize repairs you already made. And you hand over the data your own land produced. And the American farmer, the single most self-reliant customer in the entire economy, a man whose whole identity is built on fixing his own equipment and owning his own ground, heard that message, understood it completely, and did the one thing Deere never planned for. He believed it. And then he refused to buy a thing he was told he'd never truly own. That is the collapse. Not the grain markets, not Brazil, not interest rates. The sales are falling because Deere spent a decade explaining, in fee after fee and lockout after lockout, that the farmer was renting his own tractor, and the farmer finally took them at their word and walked out of the dealership. They are not going to fix this by building a better tractor at an honest price. Watch what they do instead. Right to repair legislation is moving through state houses right now, bills that would force Deere to hand farmers and independent shops the same diagnostic access the dealers hold. Deere signed a memorandum of understanding promising to play nice on repair, and farm groups will tell you the access still isn't real. They are fighting it in the places that matter because they've run the math too, and they know exactly what happens to parts and service revenue the day the farmer can fix his own machine in his own shed without asking permission. So here is where it stands. The lots are full. The auction yards are climbing. The 40-year-old tractors are appreciating and the $500,000 ones are sitting. John Deere is watching the most loyal customer base in American industry load up old iron on trailers and drive away from green paint their grandfathers swore by. And they did it to themselves. One subscription, one lockout, one sensor, one insult at a time. The farmers who walked away didn't lose their nerve. They finally read the contract, and they made the right call. If you like uncovering hidden truths, subscribe and join us again soon.